Nice Shorts theme song.
Nice shorts. Yeah.
Shayna, thanks for
Hello.
joining us today. So nice to meet
Thank
you.
you.
Yeah. Talking about your film, which is called A Better Kind of Crying.
Yes.
Yeah, I was curious how you linked up with them because I'm like, oh, Bad Mule, because they're doing the film right now up in Chicago and they're recruiting
Yeah.
people.
It was
But
cool. Like a couple years ago, Mark Roberts, maybe he found my website or something. It was like before I had been posting a lot of animation online. So I was always curious. I'm like, how did like what about my website? I don't know. But it was really cool. He just reached out and was like, I do animation. I'm also interested in doing live performance stuff because that's my background is, acting and performance and directing puppetry stuff. So it was very cool for him to, I don't know, reach out and this was I think 2023 or something, and basically he has like a huge database of poems and stories that he's written, and he was like,
Mm,
I want to connect with animators to bring these to life. And
mm.
so I read through them, and the first one I did was about his dog who passed away named Duncan, and it was just like a minute long. I mean, it's very sweet, it's very sad, like moving piece of writing in 1 minute. And I was like, oh man, I just connected with it and I was like, I want to do this one. So that was the first one. And then he had another one about like a guy named Chip who has a chip on his shoulder. And then that
Mhm.
chip has a chip on his shoulder and that and whatever. So that was like a digital animation that I did. And that was really fun. And then he was like, yeah, pick a third one. And then I had another one in mind, like more, it was shorter, like something I could visualize. And then he was like, oh, actually, I want you to do this one. And I listened to it and I was like, oh God. Like it, first of all, it's like long and I just had no idea, like we were saying before, like how to do these shots, like as
Hmm.
I was trying to visualize it, I was like, I know what it would look like if it was like a super produced, big team animated project, but to think of how to do it as an independent animator, I was like, oh man, it's definitely a challenge, like the running sequences and all that. But it was really fun. Like I'm glad I was asked to do it because I might have not have chosen it, but it really was just like a stretch for me to make it.
I wonder when you get a story, do you mean they don't have any illustration, like any arts involved?
No art. I think there was one, for the audio, there was like a still image of like a mouse in the grass. So that was like the
Oh,
one image. But the words are so descriptive, I think, that you're like,
hmm.
okay, I could kind of picture it. But yeah, and it was like I listened to the track in English and Spanish.
Yeah.
And so
Um,
then kind of just listen to it like over and over. And I'm like closing my eyes, being like, okay, what are the, how to visualize it? Because usually I don't work like that. Like I'll write and direct my own things. So I'm writing it and thinking of what it will look like. So I think subconsciously I just write it kind of having a vague sense that I know how to do it. Like I probably wouldn't write a mouse running for minutes from a lawnmower. I'm like, I don't know how to do that. Or like jumping up a tree and then looking down. I'd be like, I don't know.
yeah,
So it was cool though to get the assignment basically.
it's an audiobook format already, so it's all there and done. The timing is set. That's not being edited. Does that make it harder for you, easier? And you have experience doing music content, like doing music videos and choreography already. So, like, did that help? Are you just used to this format?
Yeah, it's a good question. I don't know. I think some ways it was harder, in some ways it was easier. Like there was some times where there was like 2 seconds where I'm like, I don't know what to do with that 2 seconds. And then there was some sequences where I was like, oh God, like the baby has to come back and find its way so quickly that I'm
Yeah.
like, oh no, like I wish I could, have a couple, minute or not a minute, but whatever, like a couple more seconds of like music there to like kind of let the audience experience that. So there were moments where I was like, yeah, kind of challenged by the working to an audio track and then sometimes where it was really helpful. I did like a digital animatic and timed it with the music.
Yeah. Also, you have English version, you have Spanish version. Why you choose the Spanish version for this story?
That was Mark's call. I think the
Oh,
English
okay.
version will never be seen because it's actually different timing too. So we were like,
Yeah.
oh,
Oh,
we'd have to make sort of like two. For some reason, I think the Spanish one was like 13 seconds longer or something.
Oh,
So
okay.
instead of making two versions of the film, I think in his mind he was like, I'll just do the Spanish with the English subtitles, and that's more like the heart of the piece. And the actress who did the recording is so awesome.
from the story, personally, I feel it's very intense
Yeah,
and it's very dramatic.
I
But
know.
somehow, I want to talk more your choice for the look. Are you purposefully make it balance to soften the tragedy, or is there other factors for you to have this kind of style?
I think that is really important to me in all my work, like theater and puppetry. I'm always trying to like grapple with some heavier themes or like philosophical ideas or just something. And then the medium is usually like handmade objects or like wearable sculptures. This is like a weird hat. And like there's something about the welcoming in with this like playful world, and then maybe it can like contain darker themes.
Yeah, you definitely help us to absorb the information. Like for the mama mouse, there's really so many things happen, but
I
I don't
know.
know. And look
Uh,
at
th-
the baby.
So
yeah,
much trauma, and these kids are having to
yeah.
deal with it. But the craziest thing is, I thought this was like an allegory or something. I was like trying to, wonder where it comes from. And Mark was like, I saw this happen. You'll have to talk to him too to get the full story. But he was mowing his lawn and saw a mother or a mouse with like her babies
Yeah.
leap onto a tree. And
Oh
then like,
my.
yeah. So she was saved, she did
Okay.
her duty. So
Do you
no
think
no harm.
he spent the rest of the day just like just going like this, going, she probably had a husband. She probably had
Yeah,
a husband.
where was her husband? Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. But then he put it all into the work. And he was like, I don't want to see the lawnmower guy. Like I want him like totally covered up like with the tick protection, and he's
yeah.
just this kind of, abstract villain of like wreaking havoc.
Speaking of the lawnmower chase, um, that's a wild shot that I was had so many questions about, but I think you're going to actually give us answers to everything.
Okay. I'm going to introduce you to my friends, my family.
Yeah, yeah,
Her
yeah.
her head her head broke on the last day of filming, which was
Okay.
a little scary. Like the wire had just been used too much, so a little
Yeah.
wobbly. But anyway, this is our star, Maria.
Yeah.
Um, her tail. Okay. So yeah, I just wanted to show a little bit of the process here. There's like standard ways to make puppets, and I think I'm like improvising a little bit. So I don't know. I'm always sort of experimenting with different ways, and this was the first time I sort of did it this particular way. But draft it out on paper and then use the wire armature in this like Cos clay sculpt that they say is like bendable.
Uh-huh.
And then this sort of like ace bandage material.
Uh-huh.
And then I got this foam. I don't know if anyone from New York is watching, but there's a place in Canal Street called Canal Rubbers, and they sell these big bags of like scrap foam for
Uh-huh.
like $10, $8 or something. And so I
Oh.
get this for puppets. And then just for people who don't know about the needle felting process, it's like taking wool that looks like this, and then I use one of these things that's like a foam brick kind of that can take the pressure, and then you literally just stir until until it becomes the proper shape. So that's the fur of the mouse. These pictures are out of order, but it goes wire and the cosplay.
Yep.
Then this stuff called milliput, which is like an epoxy, like a two-part epoxy that you mix together, and that kind of makes like the bones so
Yeah.
that the wire doesn't bend in every way where it's not supposed to.
Oh,
And
that's
then
cool.
from there, I think the head was actually like one of those styrofoam balls. And then
Okay.
I like built it up a little bit with the milliput. Now it's
Mouse.
all kind of getting blurry how I did this. But then, yeah, so the foam ball makes it easy to then do the wool roving on top because you can like push it into it. Um, and it's harder for, the arms that are like wire. I'm just wrapping it around and like poking it. So you do the bandage situation. And then
The
from
bandit
there,
situation.
from there, I cut up the foam and sort of like, I think I just use hot glue or some other kind of glue and sandwich the foam pieces together
Mm.
and then trim it down. So that's how you make it like a little bit more built up. Maybe that's how then you like stick in the wool onto that. The costume, I had fun sourcing that too, just going to like, I went to a flea market and found a little doily for the dress. So like finding patterns and stuff, that are like the correct scale. I
Hmm.
thought there's a place in Brooklyn also called Fab Scrap. It's like a bunch of used fabric, and they have all these different bins, and you can kind of like put a bunch of fabric in a bag for very little money. So it was fun to go there and just find some kind of interesting looking fabric. And
Hmm.
also one other thing, Mood Fabric in New York, have you been there, Fu?
Well, I
They,
watched Project Runway and they talk
yeah.
about
Right. So they let you take samples, like someone you're like, "Oh, I'm interested in that and that," and they come around with scissors and like cut sort of like puppet-sized
yeah.
scraps. And I'm like,
That's
"Thank you. I will
awesome.
consider these." But then that's sort of all I need. So yeah, I just wanted to show this like KNS tubing where you can, put the head off and on. And that was helpful for like, putting the clothing on and then just to articulate her head. I ended up using this like drain tape to make there like more friction for the tube. Like I
Oh,
wrapped this around so it kind of had like resistance. These little
they're
baby
so
mice.
small.
These were also thanks to Fab Scrap, that place. It's so hard to see in this photo, but I wanted them to all be in the same family kind of. So I just was getting these like tiny little scraps and then, you know, gluing them around.
So their size was something I was curious about because you do the close-up shot and having them that small and doing the close-up, is that beneficial or harder because you're going to see more detail and therefore kind of more imperfections in wool being that shot in.
Totally.
But
I know.
like
I think it's sort of like a jump scare when you see them close up and they're just like all
it,
fuzzy. But I
it
also
was
sort of like
cool.
that. A little trick that I was learning doing this project was people using pastel, like chalk and dust. They kind of like break it up and then almost use that as paint on the wool. And I did that for the nose and just like some shading and stuff like that on the ears. Oh, yeah. I just wanted to show this moment for how the back of the grass was being kind of fed through the lawnmower. I had these blades of grass that I spent a while, making, which is just cut out foam and felt with a little thin green wire behind it, hot glued on. And so
Mm.
I had, I thought a lot of these, blades of grass, but just trying to reuse them over and over for all these different grass setups so that, it looked like it was a really dense lawn. Here I'm using this garbage can underneath that green foam to kind of like roll this thing. It was just like looking around my studio and being like, what can I use to make this thing happen like this? So leftover foam and tape to make a sort of band that feeds under the wheels. And then I used magnetic tape to like tape the grass onto these different panels of cardboard, and then it would go under the lawnmower, and I'd like pull it out the other side. And this is just that, pink foam, insulation foam that I'm using to make the lawnmower itself. Um, and then I got these, I think like replacement lawnmower wheels that then I sold to a guy on Facebook Marketplace, and he had no questions about why there was green felt all over the wheels. He was just like, these are great. So this was like a fun problem solving thing.
That's
Yeah.
amazing.
And then she's on this like foam wheel kind of
Mm.
thing. It's actually like a plumbing thing that I found at the dollar store, but I put some styrofoam around it and then I could kind of poke her feet into the foam. So that was how she was like running on that wheel.
Yeah, I usually see bigger scale of the wheel, but yeah, for your project, this is my first time to customize for this size.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. I think this was the most challenging. This was the first shot I did because I was like, I'm not quite sure how to do it. I'm like, does it have to be on green screen? Like, I just tried like a few different things, but then I just thought like in camera, there's pretty much like no editing. Okay, cool. Yeah, I just found this image of the ofrenda of like what might be in an offering to the late husband. And
I like
then
it's the mouse skull instead of the little human skull that is a nice little touch.
Yeah, I'm like, wait, are there human skulls? And I think that's kind of dark too. But
Uh-huh.
yeah, finding like mouse scale things like these candles, I was like, oh, I just had fun kind of going to these thrift stores and flea markets and finding little objects like that little key, things that might be in this
Oh,
world.
are they crayons?
They're
Like
not, they're
with
actually like mini candles.
okay.
And then I just put the little bit of the felt on top.
There's so many storytellings just with that one frame. Like even they are offering cheese, for the spirit.
Yeah, it was fun to kind of build out the world. Like I really liked that in the writing of just like
Mm.
over here, this other thing happened, and now we're back to the action.
Yeah.
And the way it was written just made me feel this like whip pan, almost like a Wes Anderson thing where it's like like perfectly framed and
Yeah.
then back.
L-
Yeah, yeah.
Literally was thinking about that when I was watching it because the balance and like the way the story, the speed was going, I was like, it definitely had the vibe.
And then
Girl
this going
laugh.
back to that
Yeah.
shot, wanted to show like the reference. I had my friend Janelle film me running in my studio to like it was a much longer video, but you think when I was like starting this, I'm like, I know what it looks like to run, but then I'm like, wow, I really don't. Like the shoulders and the arms and like having weight of that many things and how does it work? And you're looking back. So this was the first time I used this in Dragon Frame where you import the video right there to try to like frame by frame match it. I'm usually not doing that. And then in the same way, this was like the realization that one of her babies is missing, which is hard, like to make the puppet emote. I'm like, wow, it is sort of, it's limited. It's like you're working with felt and wire. So I'm like, how do I give that expression of like relief and then like feeling it and then terror? I don't know how successful it is, but I think it goes by so quickly that you get the gist.
I feel it. And you also answered one of my questions about like, hey, we never have been a mouse mama having 5 kids while running and still feeding them, nurturing them. So your reference and how the movement and the weight and all those things, yeah, literally solved my question.
Amazing. I think I did more of like a PG third or a PG version or G version of like the feeding. I was like that the visual could be different. Like I was like I don't really want to see the
That's
mice
realistic.
latched. So
Yeah,
it's over the clothes breastfeeding for whatever reason. I don't know, but
yeah.
that's what it is. Um, and then here's another shot just to show that like parallax movement of how the mouse is running through the grass again. So this is just another way to show the running. I had to show a lot of different angles to kind of like keep it interesting.
I don't know why, but what really stood out to me too was just the single one in front for like the real close. For some reason that just really stood out to me as just a
That
neat
was sort of like the
touch.
most helpful one, like wiping the frame over and over. It just kind of sells the trick. So I would just yeah, keep moving that one back and forth. And there was a lot of that, like when a shot didn't look that dynamic, I was like, what if I just like bring something closer to the lens and kind of create more
Yeah,
depth.
person.
This fabric tape measure, whatever you call it, that comes in like a sewing kit. When it
Yeah.
Hmm.
needed to be very precise, I just taped that down to parts of the set, or here it's on the slider, and then could really, micro movement, centimeter by centimeter, move the camera, which is like
Yes.
DIY way to do it if you don't have a mechanized thing. I was sort of building and filming at the same time, and I'm like, okay, tomorrow I film the up in the tree shot, and I'm like, I could make a whole tree, but I could also, it was winter, so I'm like, let me just shake this snow and ice off this branch right here and bring it into the studio, dry it off and use that, and then just glue on some felt leaves to sort of make the tree. So, and I think it looks way better than what I could make. So I think that was a good lesson for me too of like, what if you set up the camera and just see what you really need? And that's why I wrote like building the set in front of the lens.
Yeah, totally.
To
Where did you get the
fill out.
trunk? Did you
Trunk?
shake a tree really hard with a chainsaw too, or?
That is like a bark. That this is like you could buy like a piece of bark.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
didn't know they have that. That's cool.
I know. And sort of in the same vein as like the tree only showing, part of it rather than building the whole thing. Her husband, like I was saying, he lives in this box, so he doesn't have any
Well,
legs or arms. The
Well,
oh,
velvet. Oh, I guess it was from this angle. So
that,
yeah, only doing what I have to do to have it make sense for the camera. This was fun to find at that flea market, just the matchbox. That was one of the first visions I had when I was listening to it. I was like, oh, it's one of those like stories where they're using, human objects to
yeah,
yeah.
create their
yeah.
world. I did very few like rig removals. I was really trying to figure out ways to just either hide the rig if I had to use it or just not use it at all. But there were some moments where Maria, the main character, had to be airborne. So it was just like one or two frames of her jumping or something where I removed the rig. And then yeah, this just shows the space I was working in was pretty small. I like rented this studio, which is way bigger than what I normally do because stop motion, it's contained, but then with the camera and the distance and the lights, like you actually do need, sometimes like a larger space. Yeah, also having this TV was helpful because usually I'm looking on my computer and it can be very small. So having it big and on the carpet here is this dragon frame clicker that you use so you can not
Mm,
be near the camera and it's like tripping over a lot of lights and tripods and stuff to get out of the way. Make sure you don't have
yeah.
shadow in it. But anyway, one thing about Mark Roberts, amazing, amazing collaborator to work with. Like he really just trusts the artist that he brings on and lets you go. And I'm like, I feel so lucky to have that person in my life because it's such a gift to not not be like getting all these notes. Like I made the animatic and he gave me like a couple tiny little tweaks, and then from there he's just like, go do your thing. And
That's awesome.
such an awesome gift. I really wish everything was like that. I just love animation and I love the power of being able to tell like an emotional story that's like a non-human story. And I think animation is just such an incredible medium for that, of like
Yeah.
empathy. And I'm really excited for people to see it.